Hey everyone. In this video, I wanted to pretty quickly cover just how we can leverage GPT-5 in a number of the Microsoft experiences. So firstly, what even is this GPT-5 that we're talking about? And what's interesting about this, it's not just the latest version of the OpenAI GPT model, which of course it is, but it's unifying what were previously a variety of speciality capabilities and reasoning abilities that were previously distributed over various different models. So one of the big things this is actually giving us is this idea of a model unification. And we can dig into more of what that actually means. Because one of the big things it now does is it has this ability for, in real time, route, depending on the prompt we give. It can choose between a regular high throughput model for faster but still very complete responses, or given the prompt we give it, it can say, actually, I think I need to use a deeper reasoning model that will take its time to craft a plan, check its work, then respond. These thinking versions have had reinforcement learning to ensure they think before they answer. So in my prompt, if I was to ask it to walk through the problem step by step, or evaluate multiple options before deciding, or check your work, or think hard about this, this would encourage that model router to go and use the reasoning option. So it's basically now going to do this idea of deep reasoning as needed. Now, if I'm using the API, we have the ability to configure the amount of reasoning effort. Because obviously, when I have a higher amount of reasoning, it uses more tokens, internal tokens for that reasoning, for that chain of thought. It will take longer to respond. So depending on my scenario, I can say, hey, I want a minimal amount, a low amount, a medium is the default, or high. So I have a lot of control over that. Also, the higher the amount of that internal reasoning and planning, there'll be a greater lag before the first response token. So that time for first token will be longer. Also, when I'm using the API, there's also the ability to set a verbosity. So this is kind of, hey, what is the amount of output and the amount of output tokens it will generate? Low, medium, high. Medium is the default. If I'm coding, if I set this to low, I'd have a more concise code with minimal commentary. If I set medium or high, hey, it's going to be more verbose code, better explanations of exactly what it's doing. One of the big things they talk about now with this model is this idea of PhD reasoning level. With each version, it kind of progresses from talking, I guess, to a 5-year-old to a middle schooler to a high schooler to a college student. Now, this PhD level of reasoning. So it's highly knowledgeable. It's a highly capable partner to the things we're doing. And while they're focused on improving across the board, and if you look at the various benchmarks they use to judge it, some of the most common use cases are writing, coding, and health. So there's been an extra special focus there. So I can now get it to write a complete app in a single, well-structured prompt that gives out all of the specific requirements. It doesn't replace a medical professional, but it can help me, hey, I can give it a medical report, and it can help me understand what it means. It could give me guidance about questions I might want to ask. If I'm doing agentic task execution, or RFP analysis, compliance audits, financial modeling, it's going to excel there. It is a multimodal input. So when I think about, hey, the prompt I'm giving it, the information I am sending in, I can send it both text and images. So this is why it's multimodal. It does not generate images out. The output of this is going to be text. If we want images, we would use the existing image models that already exist. It does support very long context windows. So I can have up to 272,000 tokens for the input, and for the output, 128,000 tokens. Now, that 128,000 is shared between the tokens I might use for that internal reasoning and the ones I'll actually use for the output. But obviously, I can send it a huge amount of information in. So when we think about context, giving it more information and documents and description of tools it can use, I can give it massive amounts of information in, and obviously it can still generate a lot of really good information out. It's got improved safety, better jailbreak protection, reduced hallucination, etc., etc. So overall, hey, some nice improvements when we think about just that generative large language model. Okay, so if I now think about the Microsoft ecosystem, where can I actually go and start playing with it? And if I think about building things up, the first place I would think about, well, how can I go and use models, is going to be Azure AI Foundry. So Azure AI Foundry is where I can go and just start using the base models themselves. Now, it's probably easier if we go and have a quick look. Now, obviously, Foundry has a massive catalog of models. It's not just the OpenAI ones. I mean, there's thousands of different models. But right now, it's kind of highlighting. And I can see, well, yeah, look, I've got the GPT-5, GPT Mini, GPT Nano, and also we'll see this GPT Chat. So we have these 4 different versions of the GPT-5 that I can go and use. And the one I'm going to use is going to vary depending on my use case. So I can think about, well, okay, the GPT-5, that's the standard model for complex reasoning, broad world knowledge, heavy coding, multi-step agentic tasks. The GPT-5 Mini, well, that's cost-optimized reasoning and chat. It's going to balance the speed and the cost and the capabilities, but I'm going to pay a lot less per token. GPT-5 Nano is even smaller. It's for very high throughput tasks. It's really good for very simple instruction following for classification purposes. And then the GPT-5 Chat, that's really good for multi-turn, multimodal interactions where it's going to maintain some context between those various turns that we have. And so you have these different sizes and you're going to pay for that price, performance, latency, and you pick the one that you think makes the most sense. And remember, when I'm focusing over here, for example, I have these API parameters around, well, how much reasoning effort do I want it to actually use? What is the verbosity I want it to leverage? But one of the things you probably noticed over here, if I go back, is at the top of the page, model router with GPT-5. So if we look at the model router, what this is actually doing is in basically near real time, you pass the model router the prompt. The model router can then decide which of all of these models is the most optimal model for what you're asking it. And yes, it includes all the GPT-5 ones, but maybe it would still choose to go and use a 4.1 or an 04 mini, for example, because it's working out, well, which model would be capable of meeting the prompt you're asking it to perform in the most cost-optimized way. And so if I'm not 100% sure of, well, what is the right thing to do, or I just want that flexibility without me having to code that, I can use the model router in Foundry, and it can send it to all of the different GPT-5 models, and as you saw, some of the GPT-4 ones as well. Now, when we think about Azure AI Foundry, we still get all the regular Azure AI Foundry stuff as well. So we think about all of the different content safety capabilities it has, which is critical for both what we send it, what it's outputting, if there's versus copyrighted stuff, if it's trying to jailbreak things. Hey, it's non-deterministic, so evaluations of what it's outputting and is it actually working to purpose. There's great capabilities around that to there. It has really great Azure integration. So when I think about, hey, I want to integrate with virtual networks, I want private endpoints, I don't want it publicly facing. If I want to integrate with Entra ID for the authentication piece, use managed identities, so I don't have to store tokens and passwords and secrets to use the service, I can just have all that as part of the service. And of course, I can do various fine-tuning and other fun stuff. All of the things we would expect in Foundry, that's all there in addition to that huge model catalog. The next place we can go and look is GitHub Copilot. So if we jump over, our next solution would be GitHub Copilot. Now, GitHub Copilot has a number of different capabilities. Obviously, it has edit capabilities, ask capabilities, and agent capabilities. Ask is great for, hey, I just want to have this interactive interaction with you, ask some questions, you give me feedback. Edit mode, it can go and do multi-file code editing based on the prompt I give it. And the agent mode, hey, it's this autonomous, multi-step, goal-driven thing. And when I think of that coding, now I can use GPT-5 across the board in all of these different personas. So for coding, I get big improvements, the code quality, the maintainability of the code. I get better explanations of the code. And it can do far better reasoning when I have more complex code tasks. So if we jump over super quickly, so here I'm in Copilot, but if I look down this bottom piece, you'll see I have the option to do GPT-5. So I can go and use GPT-5, and I can use that across ask, across that multi-file edit, even across that nice autonomous agent capability. So I have a great deal now of capabilities if I want to say, hey, yep, I want to take advantage of those improvements to the coding capabilities, which was a huge focus of GPT-5. Talking of writing code, so the next big place we actually see these capabilities of GPT-5 showing up already is Copilot Studio. If I think about Azure AI Foundry as often that hub for my pro code efforts, then Copilot Studio is that lower code capabilities. So now I can use GPT-5 for my agent orchestration, for my prompting tools. And we'll actually see two different capabilities there. So if I jump over, so what I'm doing right now is I'm editing an agent in Copilot Studio. But if I go and look at its settings, now I am using early access. So this environment I'm using has the early access turned on. But what you'll see is now I can go and pick in the model GPT-5 Auto or the pure GPT-5 reasoning. And the whole point here is the auto will switch between GPT-5 chat and the GPT-5 reasoning. So it will decide, well, what makes the most sense based on what am I being asked to do in this particular instance. So I can now very easily go and access that. I can also do exactly the same thing in Power Apps. So Power Apps would also let me go and select GPT-5 in addition to the 4.1 to go and generate based on the description you give it. Microsoft Copilot. So now maybe more of those sort of experience that we use. So Microsoft Copilot, just as those interactions and asking it to do things, well, it now has a smart mode. So if we go and look in just the regular, Microsoft Copilot, if I click this quick response drop down, I now have this smart mode. So this will use GPT-5. So it will think deeply or quickly based on the task. And that's really a key point there. So the thing I spoke about at the start, with now it just has that ability to decide, hey, should I use a chat-based model or I should use the reasoning, that advanced reasoning, it puts it into one experience. I don't have to make that decision. It will auto-route to that right variant depending on what I need based on my prompt. If it's a simple query, it just sends it to the chat model. If it's a more complex query, it will send it to that advanced reasoning model. And in exactly the same way, I would also see that across Copilot Chat and M365 Copilot. I'll see this option to try GPT-5. And this will work across both sort of the work and the web. This obviously on my work data, but I can actually select, hey, I want to try the GPT-5. Now, if it's organizational data, your administrator probably will have to go and enable that in the policies to make that available to you. And really, you're just going to see this grow. I mean, GPT-5 is very new, but because of the partnership Microsoft has, at day one, it was available in so many experiences, you can go and start leveraging it and still take advantage of all the other capabilities of that Microsoft ecosystem. And you're just going to see it grow and grow. But that was it. I wanted to just really quickly go over where GPT-5 is today so you can go and start playing. Hope that was useful. Until next video, take care.